Good evening and welcome, everyone. June 19th, special call Board of Education meeting. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and it'll be led tonight by Board Member Coy Young. The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Young. Ms. McLeod, do you want to swear in the representative for each one of these members at the same time? Okay, if you're going to be a speaker tonight for your request, if you would come forward, and it is required by law that our staff attorney, Ms. Angel McLeod, swear you in. So if you would come forward. We have tonight on our agenda 5 zone exemption appeals that have been through staff and the director. If you would look, please, board members, I believe everyone got a piece of paper from me as to whatever motion that you might want to make tonight on each one of these individuals. And we will decide them one at a time. We won't do all 5 at once, of course. And the first zone exemption appeal is this Christina Taylor. And oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Evans. Excuse me.
Sure. If you'd like, we can do the summary at the end. It's not a big deal. We can do that at the end, and we can go over the appeals now.
Okay. All right. Whatever you want to do.
Well, the first one is parent Christina Taylor requests a zone exemption for her child to attend Stewart's Creek Middle School instead of Blackman Middle School. The request has been denied previously because Stewart's Creek is at capacity and cannot accept exemptions pursuant to school board policy. Ms. Taylor, come on up, please. You're welcome to speak. I'll turn on the microphone for you. Take all the time you need.
Mr. Taylor, if you give us your name and address, please, for the record, and remind the audience that we are on television, not live, however, and normally you have 3 minutes, but you have unlimited amount of time and plenty of time for questions as well. So, Ms. Taylor, welcome, and go right ahead.
It was Christina Taylor. Address is 210 Cradle Street, Smyrna, Tennessee, 37167. I am here to ask for the zone exemption for my daughter to attend Stewart's Creek Middle School instead of Blackman Middle. My son attends Stewart's Creek High School. He'll be a sophomore this year. With the time difference between schools, I take my children back and forth to school. I always have since they started school. And it doesn't leave me enough time to get them both to school on time nor picked up on time. Plus, my son also does archery for Stewart's Creek. After school, I've got to be able to get him with his bow to practice on time. With the time difference, I won't be able to pick him up on time to get him to practice on time.
Ms. Taylor, thank you. Just for your information and for the audience as well, we do receive and read. We have 3 or 4 days to go over these privately, not privately as a board, but I mean individually, and we do read just about everything that is appropriate, I guess, for this. So, board, if you have any questions, Ms. Taylor's
Mr. Chairman,
application goes on down the number of pages. Yes.
Probably a comment more than any questions. This is the toughest night of the year for us, and that counts rezoning, anything else that comes in front of this board. And we've had several years that we have to do this, and unfortunately, we have a a number of schools that are over capacity. And it's not fair to take a child even from a school that is not at capacity and move them into one that is. That's not fair to the other students. And it's not that I'm not sympathetic or that we're sympathetic with your situation, but it's tough, and we have a history of voting and making exemption changes for extraordinary circumstances. So just wanted to let you know that I am sympathetic, but I can't support your exemption, and I wanted to tell you that one-on-one.
Board, if you looked over your paperwork, I know you already have here, and I'll tell Ms. Taylor, I want to echo what Mr. Blair said. First of all, I usually almost always look forward to coming out here. I like everybody here, and sometimes we make decisions that, I'm not looking forward to necessarily, but this is the one night when I never look forward to this, because I have to, I don't know how this board will vote, but I'm not going to vote for this, and for a number of reasons, and I hope that you will at least be understanding and slightly sympathetic. I think we've had a very qualified individual in Mr. Evans here, and perhaps staff as well, but certainly Mr. Evans, who looks over, well, you would be alarmed at the number of different requests. And then the director also goes over any, and both principals did not approve this. And there's, our policy says, although I will admit publicly that we, sometimes in special situations and whatnot, but this is not one of them. And I apologize for what will be my vote to uphold the director on his decision here if somebody makes a motion. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say? Anything else? I'm sympathetic with your problem, and I can tell you right now that this board is as well. I know they are, because we've been through this before. But at any rate, I need a motion from someone.
Mr. Chairman, this is an unfortunate situation where we have middle schools or elementary schools of one size that feed into larger middle schools that feed into even larger high schools, and because of that you have this situation where you're going from Stewartsboro over to Blackman and then back to Stewart's Creek High School, and it's just a little bit of geography there that is getting in the way. But I'm so confident that the people involved, the new relationships that you'll find at Blackman Middle School and the folks at Stewart's Creek High School, all of these people will be very understanding of your circumstances. And as you talk about, here's my schedule and here's when my children can arrive, and can you work with me in this regard and that regard, there are going to be people that come alongside and help you to work with that. Because of that confidence, I make a motion to uphold the decision of the Director of Schools.
Second.
Second from Mr. Blair, a motion from Mr. Holliday to uphold the director. Any comment, debate, discussion from anyone?
Mr. Jordan, if it need be,
Yes, sir.
Ms. did leave me the roll call sheets. If
I'm sorry.
we need a roll call sheet, we can do it that way. However you'd like to.
No, let's do it by roll call. Are you going to just go in the general order, of alphabetical order, or what will you do?
The sheets that she gave me have you all in alphabetical order, but with the chairman ending the vote.
That's fine.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Estes? Yes. Mr. Hodge? Yes. Mr. Holliday?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And
Yes. Ms. Taylor, thank you.
okay, our second appeal tonight is parent Shante Sherrill requests a zoning exemption for her child to attend Riverdale High School instead of Blackman High School. The request has been denied previously because the Blackman principal recommended against the exemption for athletic concerns. The student is a multi-sport athlete. Ms. Sherrill? The microphone is yours. You're welcome to share with the board any information you think they should have. As much time as you need.
Ms. Sherrill, welcome. Hello. Feel free. You have as much time as you'd like.
and excuse me because I am extremely nervous.
Oh, no reason to be. No reason to be.
All the
We
time, but
may
I'm
or may not
nervous.
be in opposition to what you're about to say, but we're certainly not opposed to you or your daughter, and there's no reason to be nervous with these 7 people, or 8 actually. To assure you. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Shantae Sherrill, and I live at 1542 Beacon Crest Circle, and of course that is in Murfreesboro. And I've done a zoning exemption for my student to attend Riverdale High School, which I know I got a signature from Riverdale, but not from Blackman High School. And my reasons for, I feel like I'm going in and out. And the reasons for my exemption is to start off with when me and my my husband at that time purchased our home. We purchased it because of the school zones, and so originally we were zoned for Riverdale. Me and my family. So my oldest daughter has graduated from Riverdale and attends MTSU now, and so that is. Riverdale is 2.6 miles from my home, whereas Blackman is about 7 miles from my house. And I do, at the time, the only thing that's changed from the letter that I sent earlier is that my youngest daughter, I have decided now to let her go to Rockville Middle School versus staying at Caisson Lane, because she'll be going to the 6th grade. So with her at Rockville Middle and then my soon-to-be my high schooler, they would be on the same time schedule as well, going to school from 8 to 2:50. And so that would put both of them at home at the same time. And I don't know, whatever other questions that you have for me, but like I said, I did purchase my home for that reason. This is not something that I just thought about and decided that I wanted to do. That's why we moved in this area at that time, was to attend the schools that were zoned, which was Caisson Lane, and at the time Rockville wasn't built at that time, but once it came Rockville and then Riverdale.
You are caught up in what many parents over the years have come to us in. You have been zoned one place, and then in Rutherford County, you have a really good chance of being rezoned during your tenure of your children growing up, and it's an issue, and we regret it, but it's a issue that we have to deal with because schools become overcrowded, and when one school becomes overcrowded and another one isn't, children have to be moved from time to time. But we provide transportation, and it's just, unfortunately, you just can't count on the zone when you buy your home.
Well, at that time, if as close as I lived to Riverdale, I would have never even thought that it would have changed to Blackman, because you could literally throw a rock at Riverdale from my home. And I know students who are friends who live a little further down, they're zoned for Riverdale versus, and I'm still closer. So that's what I'm saying is that being so close, I would have never thought they would have rezoned us to Blackman, because we're zoned for Caisson Lane and Rockville Middle School. I never thought that the high school would have changed to Blackman, and I wasn't under for the principal at Rockville to sign off on it. There's not an crowdedness there for them to say yay or nay. And I have a really great rapport with, which of course Mr. Nolan is gone now, but I have a really great rapport with the staff there. Miss Justice, Dr. Justice, she's the one that denied it. So both principals did not say no, just one said no. So that is my reason for it, to continue to appeal it.
And you can say you, because we're the ones that rezoned you. So
Okay, you.
and it's our situation, but it's one that we have no choice but to move students around from time to time for children to spread children out where one school is not so overpopulated when another one's not. And again, we do provide transportation.
Well, and I know that, all transportation is provided to that student if you're zoned for that school. But see, what's going to happen now is that when the Rockville High School is ready, we'll rezone again. And then probably I won't be rezoned. I won't be for Rockville High School. I'll be back at Riverdale.
So, and that's anticipation for Rockville is what, maybe 2 years, maybe?
Well, we'll be rezoning, yes, ma'am.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So once you rezone again another year or two, then I'll probably be back at Riverdale. So me leaving from Blackman High School to be rezoned to another school, which of course they would grandfather her in if we stayed at Blackman, but when I could have already been at Riverdale for the first 2 years.
But I don't know for sure that you'll be rezoned. You may or may not.
I'm almost positive once Rockville High School, because you got to have some students going there. So I'm sure we'll be rezoned for it at some point.
I think where I live now, and I've lived there 18 years, and my children are long gone. They're both Riverdale graduates. They've been out of school a long time. But I believe that my house has been in 4 different high school zones. I think I'm right. Riverdale, Blackman, Oakland, and back to Riverdale. And that's just the way the zoning has worked out over the course of 18 years. I might be off there one school. I apologize if I am. But what he said is right. We also have situations where we have people go to a middle school, and they think that if there's a high school by the same name, that they automatically will go there, and that's not the case. And it makes sense it's not the case. We have 1,000 people in middle school, and 1,000 people in another middle school, and 1,000 people in another middle school. Obviously, we don't have a high school, you understand, for each one of those middle schools. We've got a high school.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And so they end up, and we get a lot of people that come in and talk to us, say, well, I go to such and such middle school, why don't I go to such and such high school? And the answer is the zone line is not the same, but I realize that's not the case. Do we have other questions from other board members? From Ms. Cheryl? If not, I need a motion to uphold the director or to overturn the director from someone.
Mr. Chairman, I move to uphold the director.
Okay, I need a second to uphold. Second. That was Mr. Estes. Any further comments or questions for Ms. Cheryl, or just this in general? Call the roll, please, if you would, Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir. Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Estes?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge? Yes. Mr. Holliday?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes. Ms. Cheryl, thank you very much. Mr. Estes? Excuse me. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Estes looks better than me. You can't confuse.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, you say so.
Mr. And Mrs. Swader, the reason I was late coming in, they requested to withdraw their appeal and wanted me to communicate that to the board. So their appeal has been withdrawn based on their request, and we'll just simply send them a letter saying that we've withdrawn their request for an appeal based on their request. Does the board have any questions about that?
Board? Carry on.
Our 4th appeal denied. Parent Joyce Ann Smith requested an exemption for her child to attend Thurman Francis Arts Academy, the traditional program, instead of Roy Waldron Elementary School. The request has been denied previously because the Thurman Francis principal reports space is unavailable in the requested grade, which is 5th grade, for out-of-zone students. As the board is probably aware, Thurman Francis, of course, is a magnet school, but it also has a smaller traditional school within its walls. I believe they have about 2 grade levels per traditional program, and so his 5th grade numbers are full based on the state's required student-teacher ratio. Ms. Smith?
She's right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Welcome, Ms. Smith. You have a limited amount of time, and if you just state your name and address, please.
My name is Joy Sean Smith. Address is 1025 Arlene Drive in Laverne.
Thank you.
I requested for a zone exemption for my son, Deshaun Smith. He will be going to the 5th grade. I wanted him to go to Thurman Francis because he goes to the Boys and Girls Club after school. I work at the VA hospital in Murfreesboro. I don't get off until 6. The Boys and Girls Club, it closes at 7, so I need for him to go somewhere after school while I'm at work. In the Boys and Girls Club, they don't pick up from schools in Laverne. Someone suggested Fun Company. Fun Company closes at 6. I get off at 6. I have a daughter who will also be going to Laverne High School. They pick up from Laverne High School for some reason, but not the elementary school. So she would be going to the Boys and Girls Club after school. But there would be nowhere for him to go if he went to Laverne Primary, which is the school that he's zoned for.
The issue still is that there's no room for your child at Thurman Francis.
It was previously denied, not for the capacity, it was for something else.
Well, they only have so many seats
Okay,
for the traditional, and I think they fill up from the actual zone pretty quick.
okay. He was going to Stewartsboro Elementary, and I think that they're on the list for not being able to fill out for exemptions, for zone exemptions, even if he's able to go to any school in Smyrna that will be able to take him to the Boys and Girls Club, because I really need that, because I get off at 6 and he doesn't have anywhere to go. It doesn't necessarily have to be Thurman Francis. I chose Thurman Francis because he's went there prior for 2 years, so he's familiar with that school. So that's the only reason why I chose Thurman Francis over any other school in Smyrna.
If the Boys and Girls Club picks up at John Coleman Elementary School, I'm not sure if they do, but it is a Smyrna-based school, they have space available.
Okay, I'd be fine with any school in Smyrna.
I've got just a question. You may answer. I think it was denied because of the sibling rule on the magnet school.
Mr. McCann says that what they do is, for the traditional program, they do reserve space if space is available for siblings of student who made it into the magnet program, but they also don't have room in the 5th grade, because any room they would have had would have already been filled by siblings of those who made it into the magnet program. So for example, if I have 2 elementary kids and one of them makes this magnet program and one of them doesn't, he tries to let them attend if space is available, so that the 2 children are not separated. They're in the same elementary school. But he tells me that 5th grade does not have space anyway. They are full.
So he's allowing them to attend the traditional schools, what you're saying,
If the space
not the magnet school.
It's the only magnet school that has a traditional program in it. So if they do have space available and there's a sibling there, he gives them first priority, but he says there is no room.
If she wanted to go to John Coleman, does she have to redo the entire exemption?
So the board could act tonight to make that recommendation.
And John Coleman has room?
Or do we know Boys and Girls Club picks up?
We
See, I
don't.
don't know that at this point.
It would be a contingency, of course, or we could just research it on our own and work with her either way.
I would lean in that direction, and if the chairman is receptive, this may be a case where we certainly don't want to revisit zone exemptions again, but this one may be a circumstance where we could defer, set this particular issue aside, and if Mr. Evans finds that there are no alternatives and we need to take a vote on this, but the parent here is very receptive to other alternatives, not just Thurman Francis, and perhaps those other alternatives may be something we can explore and find a resolution.
Well, the board has a couple of options. You could deny this request for Thurman Francis tonight, and we can also work with Ms. Smith on any other options that are available, like John Coleman, independent of the board's action tonight.
Ms. McLeod,
Only on Thurman Francis tonight.
would it be cleaner to deny and allow her to go back through and work through John Coleman? Would that be the cleaner option? Okay, but tell her, I think the director and the board would be receptive to John Coleman if that would work. So,
Ms. Smith, if you could just let me know if the Boys and Girls Club picks up at John Coleman.
Okay.
We can do an exemption for that school if you're okay with that.
just to make this simple, I'll go ahead and make a motion to uphold the director's recommendation, and then you can revisit.
Need a second. Ms. Moore, thank you. Any further comment?
Ms. Smith, I want to pledge extra attention, and if you stick around after the meeting, I want to know that this gets resolved for you and that your child finds their way
Thank you.
to a good after-school program.
Thanks.
So let's exchange some information at the end, but I'm going to be in the direction of denying this particular motion tonight, but we'll keep working on this.
Thank you so much.
There's no further comment. Ms. Smith, if you just stay right there for just a minute. If there's no further comment, call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Estes?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Holliday?
Yes.
Ms. Moore? Yes. Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes. Now, we have more options than just John Coleman, do we not?
I just need to know where the Boys and Girls Club goes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Have that list. We're gonna have to get that list.
Many of the schools elementary schools in Smyrna are at capacity. John Coleman is the only.
Okay. Oh.
Space available. If you're talking about the distance between those schools, 3-4 miles maybe. So, and it's in Smyrna, so if they pick up at Laverne High School, I'm assuming they would pick up at John Coleman as well. But if we can just get that verified, we can go in that direction.
If I could leave out just a minute and call them, and I can have that information for you guys, right? Okay. Thank you so
I
much.
have nothing against any of the schools down there whatsoever, but I can tell you this. If you can get this youngster into John Coleman, you're going to love it. It's brand new
Thank
and a great leadership there.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, we'll wait and see what happens.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thanks.
All right.
Our final appeal tonight, parents Michael and Kimberly Johnston request a zone exemption for their child to attend Stewart's Creek Middle School instead of Blackman Middle School. The request has been denied previously because Stewart's Creek is at capacity and cannot accept zone exemptions pursuant to school board policy. You guys have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for, Michael and Kimberly Johnston.
Kimberly Johnston, 106 Arkansas Court, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
37129.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes, sir. We're like the first lady that was up, the way that we're zoned, we're currently zoned for Blackman Middle School, Stewart's Creek High. We're not here to object that. We don't have a problem with Blackman High School or Blackman Middle School. We have a son that's a rising sophomore that currently attends. He went through Blackman. We had no issues. In fact, we enjoyed the school. The leadership, the whole program that was there, we thought was fantastic. He's currently, like I said, a rising sophomore at Stewart's Creek High School. What we're here for, and the reason we appreciate you actually hearing our case, is it's hard to put all this down in paper. Our daughter will be an 8th grader at Blackman Middle School. In the 6th grade, she was diagnosed with dysgraphia. Am I saying that right? I don't know if you're familiar with that. She has a hard time processing things that are written, that are just presented to her. She has to see it in writing. Long story short, she really struggles with math. She's been in the RTI program. She's doing very well with the 6th grade math, struggling drastically with the 7th grade.
She actually failed 7th grade math this year.
Yeah, she's having a really tough time. As parents, we're trying to, work through, understand this new math, the way they're changing things, and trying to help her as best we can. We've gone out and got her a tutor, Miss Lisa Darnell. She is a teacher at Stewart's Creek Middle School. She's, in fact, the director of the math program for the 6th grade at that school. The reason that we are asking for this motion to move her or allow her to go to Stewart's Creek is her tutor is there. She'll be able to stay, go to before school if she's got any issues. Ms. Darnell is willing to, help her with her current work, any questions that she may have. She's also willing to stay a couple days after school to continue the tutoring that we've already begun. Apart from the fact as far as transportation or anything like that.
Well, they also have a lab.
And the math lab. The math lab is huge, and is the reason that,
Our school doesn't have a math lab.
yeah, Blackman doesn't offer
a
that.
math lab.
So that's the main reason that we're coming to you to ask to please reconsider. We understand they're at capacity. We understand that, I know that they hold a few slots open for people that move into the district. I know that's one of the hottest areas, especially in Rutherford County right now. We're not trying for sports. We're not trying for transportation reasons. We're not trying for anything other than to do everything we possibly can as parents to benefit our daughter in her learning. That's it. I mean, that's why we're doing what we're doing. Transportation won't be an issue as far as our son will be driving, being a sophomore, early fall. So transportation's not an issue or a concern.
She only has 1 year left until high school. We feel like we have 1 year left to get her ready. She's just falling behind.
She's really struggling. And again, as you know, obviously we're very concerned about our daughter. We as parents feel like we're doing everything that we possibly can. And this is kind of the last step as parents that we can do to on top of the tutoring, to do, you know, what we can to get her into this math lab, because we really feel that she'll benefit from that. So that's really all we've got.
Mr. Evans, is there an IEP that I missed?
On the application, it indicates that they are disabled students, certified disabled students. They marked yes to that.
Good, but there's not a copy of, so does your IEP, does it agree with her moving? Have y'all met in the principal and the counselor and the special ed teacher? I mean, have y'all gone over this move with the team?
As far as with Blackman, or as far as with Stewart?
Well, it'd be Blackman.
We have not.
We've talked to Stewart's Creek, and Mr. Murray is very receptive. We actually have not been able to talk to our principal.
But there's an individual education program for this child.
There is, which she's in, the art
at Blackman.
Correct.
So have you met with the team and they think that this is the best, y'all decided as a group that this is the best move for this child?
No, sir. They've not come out and say, you know, they're not going to say, you know, they feel like Stewart's Creek has a better learning program for our daughter versus Blackman. They're not going to say that, oh yeah, sure, you should let her go over there because we're not going to give her the same education. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. We meet with her teachers every year.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that statement, but I understand the way you feel.
I mean, we've talked to the guidance counselors, we've talked to the school psychologist.
We've met with all of her teachers.
We're not really getting anywhere. They just keep telling us, okay, we're gonna stay with the RTI program. And I've asked for accommodations, and I'm not getting anywhere with that either. They tell me, well, just talk to her teachers, they can accommodate, and I haven't gotten anywhere with that either.
What she's going by based off the accommodations is the letter from the psychiatrist states that if somebody, like if she's taking a test, if they will verbally read her the questions, she processes it better as far as answering it. If she has to read it and try to answer it, that's where she struggles with it. So the psychiatrist has said if you will meet with the teachers are typically very receptive to being willing to, you know, whether it's after school or during different, you know, during the test, if the students are taking it, they'll read it for her, or they will, you know, work through that situation with her if it's one of the classes that she's struggling in.
Or if they could provide an agenda for the class instead of her having to take notes, if she could have a step-by-step what the class is going to be. She has a problem physically with handwriting, dysgraphia, putting things on paper, things don't translate. When you try to copy things off of a board, when you physically copy things off of a blackboard and put it on the paper, it doesn't compute, it doesn't translate correctly.
And you met with Mr. Shelton about this?
I've not been able to talk to Mr. Shelton. I've tried to get a meeting with Mr. Shelton, and nobody will even let me speak to Mr. Shelton.
When you have an IEP team meeting, if they say read the questions or something, it wouldn't make any difference to which school.
Yeah.
That has to be, that's one of the allowable accommodations or something like that you'd have to do. I mean, that's not related to which school you're in.
I've been told that the only way we can get accommodations is if it is a physical disability, such as if she has a broken arm and she can't write. And I've tried to educate them. I said, well, maybe you need to be more educated about dysgraphia, because we knew nothing about dysgraphia until she was diagnosed.
Oh, and it's not just the fact that one school may sit with her and accommodate her in that way versus, you know, Stewart's Creek versus Blackman. It's the fact that her tutor that understands this situation has been through this on, several occasions, is currently working with her, would be on hand, would help her get through. She's going in the 8th grade and is at a 6th grade math level. We're doing extra work to get her to that, to where she is. And our concern is that if she continues to stay a grade behind, especially on her math, that's what she struggles with the most, going into high school, it's going to be a real issue. And the fact that, again, that Stewart's Creek has the math lab that we know have done tremendous things working with kids as far as getting them back up to speed.
You doing anything this summer?
Yes, sir.
She's tutoring with Miss Lisa, Miss Darnell.
Just so that you're aware here, and I think you are aware, we're talking about really 2 very strong middle schools in the state, and certainly within our county. And I do not know for sure, your daughter's full situation here, but I want you to tell this board again, in this particular case, with nothing meant toward Blackman Middle at all, sure. and I'm going to tell you right up front that Will Shelton is as close a friend that I got in the world. So I'm not saying anything bad about Blackman Middle.
Nor are we.
All I'm interested in is your daughter, which I think is pretty much what you're interested in, and that's what this board is interested in. I think why do you feel that Stewart's Creek Middle is a better place for her? Explain that to me again.
Sure. And let me reiterate the fact that we didn't have, our son went through Blackman Middle School. We did not have any issues with Blackman. He's currently straight A's and advanced, honors, all advanced classes. Blackman had him very well prepared for high school. So we're not debating one school over another. The reason that we're requesting her to go to Stewart's Creek is, number one, her tutor is there, who is willing to meet with her before and after school to help her hands-on, as well as the continuing classes that we'll do through the evenings or weekends, whatever class we set, or whatever we set up through the school year. And the fact that they have the math lab that, from our understanding, has done tremendous things with students. Again, she's going into the 8th grade. She's testing at a 6th grade level. She failed miserably. Her grades were the worst they've ever been going through the 7th grade. And we're trying to get ahead of this. We don't want to put her in a situation, especially when she gets to high school. We got 1 year to really do everything as we can as parents to get her prepared. Because as we all know, we've all been through high school. High school is a completely different monster. So as parents, we feel that she will get the best education, the best help all the way around, being out of school, where her tutor is at, where Ms. Darnell is the director of the math program for the 6th grade, before, after, and the fact that they have a math lab. That's it.
And this is what she wants to. She knows that this is what she needs. Her self-esteem has really suffered over the past year. She honestly feels stupid. And
she's just really
she
struggling.
Wants help.
Yeah, she's just really struggling. And again, that's why we're here. We're here to do, as parents, everything that we possibly can to try to put her in what we feel is the best situation for our daughter. That's it. That's why we're here.
Questions from the board? Mr. Hodge?
I guess, is a real issue when she takes a test?
That's the main issue.
That's part of it.
But it's any time she has to translate anything, getting up through the grades, everything's written on the board or on a projector they put up, and the students are required to take notes. She can't, with this situation, this issue, she can't take notes and translate what she sees to paper. It's something to do with
the problem, but she is so far behind.
I guess I understand the testing part, and I don't know if you can overcome as far as having somebody read the test. But I guess the question I have, what are you talking about taking notes off the board and all that, what are they going to do different at Stewart's Creek that they would at Blackman?
Hopefully they would do what we asked Blackman to do, and as far as providing her with an agenda. The teacher's got a copy of whatever those notes are. If they could just provide her with those notes, a copy, instead of requiring her to have to physically translate them from the board. We spoke with the teachers. It's something that we requested, and for whatever reason, we just kept like banging our head against the wall. I don't know. It's the fact of not completely understanding this situation, or I don't know.
And I find it really sad that I have called multiple times to schedule an appointment with Mr. Shelton and been denied. And
We just keep being referred back to the counselor.
I called one time to Mr. Murray. He had no idea who I was and immediately got an appointment for the next day.
What-
Easy accessibility.
I'm still trying to look at this. What does your IEP say?
We haven't been able to get anywhere. We honestly haven't gotten anywhere in the past year with guidance. She's in the same situation she was a year ago.
Well, basically, you hadn't made any headway.
No.
Other than they
Other
put her in
than-
RTI.
Yeah. Which
And
they
she's
kept
still
her.
in sixth grade math.
They kept her at basically at a sixth grade level because that's where she was behind. So she grasped the sixth grade level, failed the seventh grade level horribly, and they've passed her on to the eighth grade. So our situation is just getting worse, and that she's just continuing being, left behind a grade in math.
I guess the last question I have, you talking about trying to get a hold of Mr. Shelton and everything. When did you start trying to do that?
Very early on.
Let's see, the end of last year.
Yeah.
That is,
Beginning of the school year, towards the end of the school year this year.
that is so
Did you have
unusual.
an IEP team meeting? Have you had one near the
No, I've
end
not
of the
been
year?
able to get that.
That's what we were hoping to speak with us. We keep getting referred from the office back to the counselor. The counselor tells us, yeah, the teachers should be open to working with you. And it's just kind of been this cycle. Again, it's not knocking anybody. I think
She ever had an IEP team? See, that's my question.
No.
She may not, again, I don't know your daughter because I don't have any data or anything here. Under the definition, does she qualify for an IEP? If not, they pick them up with RTI. So, there's a process for,
Yeah, RTI is not
Identification.
necessarily for special education students.
it's not, it's for actually, RTI is regularly at or work with students who are behind. But she may or may not qualify for special education. And that's,
Exactly what you said, Mr. Trevor, is correct. In order to qualify a student for special education services, you would have to go through the RTI process first. Now, there may be a 504 issue that needs to be looked at with the dysgraphia diagnosis. So that's something separate.
And that's what I've asked about. And I haven't gotten any updates.
Well, Mr. Shelton's boss is to the left of me, and I can assure you that he can arrange for y'all to be together. But Blackman Middle is an excellent academic program, and I can't see that that your daughter wouldn't get the same opportunity at Blackman Middle that she would at Stewart's Creek.
Couple of questions. I'm curious, what led you to have the psychological evaluation that you've submitted as part of your application?
the fact that she was struggling, we took her, we went, her physician, our family practitioner is the one that said she needs to go through this evaluation. So it was on direction of Christopher Holloway, Dr. Christopher Holloway.
Not the recommendation of any of the counselors at school? It was,
Counselors never came to us. When we went back to her teachers, they were all, finally, we knew something was going on. We're glad that somebody finally diagnosed this. We're glad you're finally sending her. Until that, we didn't know.
have you been able to share this evaluation with the school counselors at Blackman?
From the psychiatrist?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody's had it. All the teachers, we made it available to every teacher that she had as well.
What led you to Miss Darnell, and how did that relationship?
A family friend that had a daughter that was falling behind and recommended her. She just came highly recommended. So it's not like we went to Stewart's Creek seeking a teacher from there to try to use this as an angle to get in. Again, I've stated we had no issue with Blackman as far as, we felt they did a fantastic job with our son.
Understood.
I want to make sure that everybody understands, it's not a knock against Blackman. You know, she's got one more year at Blackman, and she goes to Stewart's Creek anyhow. So we're not trying to pull anything other than, you know, we feel that this is the best case to get her back up to speed, back up to the level of what she's currently attending school for, is through her tutor and through this math lab. That's the only reason that we're requesting this. We have spoken with Blackman on numerous occasions, and things are getting worse for us over there, not better.
I want to make sure that I'm right on this. You have not sat down, either one of you or both, with the teachers, all in the same room, and a guidance counselor, and an administrator. Doesn't necessarily have to be Mr. Shelton. Yeah. You have not sat down with them and had an individual education program for this child.
No, we've met with all of her teachers at one time.
Okay.
All of them that would attend.
Okay.
But the counselor did not attend, and everybody was aware of this meeting was because her homeroom teacher actually scheduled it so that we could all get there, all be on the same page. Teachers ask any questions that they may have. The counselor was not there, and there was not an administrative representative there.
Okay, I want to ask you a couple of other questions because I think this board is worried about this. I don't know at what level, but transportation is not a problem.
No.
Because we can't provide any.
Not, yeah.
Okay.
Transportation's not an issue.
Okay. And with all due respect and with a slight smile, sure, we're not going to look in the newspaper next year and find that she's won the state championship in tennis, are we?
She hates sports. She hates the sweat. So
okay.
She can't be in any sports. I promise you
that. It's possible that other board members may have further questions. I don't know, but on first glance here, I think we have two parents here that are asking us to not let this youngster fall through the cracks, where I have a suspicion that she's headed if you don't turn it around. And this is based by their sworn testimony, if you will, that this is academic 100%.
100%, yeah.
And I think I'm definitely leaning toward agreeing with you. But we may have other questions from this board. Mr. Estes?
This may Ms. McLeod or Mr. Odom, either one. On this psychological report, it says in here that experiencing difficulties with language skills, mathematics, and written expression, wouldn't that qualify her for IEP?
It's how much spread. You know, they look technically, it used to be the whole thing, they looked at IQ and you looked at what's the discrepancy between the standard score and the IQ versus in either reading, language arts, or math, or whatever it is. We have a little more flexibility with RTI squared, but the state now certifies based upon the RTI thing. I mean, this is one that could certainly be looked at with the information. I just don't know that it has been yet.
It's a team decision. So there would need to be, an IEP team convened in order to look at eligibility and make decisions about that. Typically, that would start with a SAT team meeting, the student assistance team, to decide whether this was something that needed a referral for special education or possibly a 504 referral, to look at what the student's needs are and what the student might be eligible for. But that would be a team decision.
Ms. Shelley can do it by herself. It have to be a team decision. Because we really don't, we got yes checked here, but we don't technically have a disability at this particular point. 2016 to
March of 2016.
So if we let them go to Stewart's Creek, then at the beginning of the year, they would need to have a team meeting and see if she qualified for an IEP.
Yes, Ms. Moore.
In looking through the report, and it's certainly so empathetic to your situation, and obviously we always want to do what we can, but, you know, as board members have already expressed, we have, you know, we do have to play by the rules, so to speak,
Sure.
but as Mr. Jordan says, certainly don't want to see your daughter slip between the cracks. As I was looking over the psychologist's report, if it's okay for me to reference here, it looks like maybe there was some merit in looking into it further as far as possible IEP or something else, but perhaps hasn't happened yet, because when I look at her summary here, I assume it's a her name is Laura, she's got on here, as such, Erin could likely benefit from an assessment of her language skills through her school in order to gain a better understanding of her level of comprehension. She says likely to struggle. So there's nothing, you know, it wasn't definitive, and I wonder if that was maybe part of the problem. Also has, therefore, a more comprehensive assessment of her academic skills, in particular math, would be beneficial to determine if these difficulties rise to the level of a disability in mathematics. So has that been sought after any further at all to make that determination?
It hasn't. I can tell you one of the main issues as far as putting her in a special needs, a traditional special needs program versus the RTI, is the fact that when one of her teachers sits down with her and actually reads the questions for her, she actually tests very high. But it's when she has to read it to translate, that's where the loss is, the loss in translation, if you will. So they don't feel that she qualifies, if you will, for special needs because she can get it. It's the fact that it's not translating, and when she sits in a group setting and everybody else is writing it down, you know, you can't ask questions during the test. You can't. So she just, you know, goes through it and does the best that she can, and obviously struggles because, like I said, her grades are just continually getting worse. So that's probably, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's part of the issue is that, like I said, when they do go ahead and read it, she does test very well.
So would that, Mr. Justin, if I may, where the counselor writes at the end of that summary, from that point, appropriate interventions and accommodations can be discerned. Am I understanding that's what you're saying, that that's what they tried to do, and that the
Yes.
determination was that
RTI was the best route for her.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I just got one more question. Back to the testing, and I want to do what I can to try to help you. I'm just trying to look at the whole situation. But if you were to go to Stewart's Creek, are they going to sit there and read the test off to her?
We don't, to be honest with you, we don't have that answer 100% because they're not going to sit down with us and discuss our daughter currently because she's not a student there. We have been reassured by Ms. Darnell that she's going to do everything she can to help us with that, being that she understands the situation. She knows our daughter. So we feel like we have an advocate in the program that's going to help us with the teachers, with the counselors, with whomever we need to talk to try to get her in the best position. So.
And I've spoken with Mr. Murray, their principal, and he understands her situation.
And has been very receptive. Yeah. He just,
It's a complicated situation.
yeah, like I said, he can't just talk to us about our daughter specifically for the fact that she's still a Blackman enrolled student. So
But the summertime tutor is on the faculty?
it's Miss Darnell.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, same
Right.
same instructor. Yes.
And she would be in her 8th grade class, or no?
She's a 6th grade teacher.
She's the director of the 6th grade program for math.
Okay.
But she's willing to meet with her before school and after to help her with her current workload.
Understood.
And she could also communicate with her math teacher, or math teacher.
To make sure
They
they're
could kind of be on the same team.
versus having her try to reach out to the Blackman teachers. They're there. They're obviously on staff.
The tutor can't charge
We know this.
while on school.
Correct. We are still going to, I'm sorry for interrupting, we are still going to pay for additional classes to get her up to speed. So those would be evenings,
Off campus.
weekends, completely off campus.
The thing that still is an issue for me is knowing what a strong academic program that is there at Blackman Middle, and knowing that Mr. Shelton, loves those kids, and that you have not had an opportunity for whatever reason to meet with him. And I can assure you that can be arranged, because, like I said, his boss is sitting to the left of me. And I just can't fathom that your child in familiar settings with accommodations, could not be successful there as she would be at a very overcrowded middle school, which is Stewart's Creek.
Sure. And I can appreciate what you're saying. And if we'd have known that it was going to come to this, we would have documented every time that we reached out to him so that we could present that to you. I'm not saying that he's a bad guy. Again, our son went through Blackman, is an athlete, was a multiple sport athlete. We were around Mr. Shelton a lot. Our son was a quarterback and a pitcher. He high-fiving us, and you're right, he's a good guy. Again, very surprised that he didn't reach back out to us. But the fact is, what it is that he did not, and we feel like she's falling behind there. Oh,
It's the fact that she's falling behind. It's not that we feel that she's falling behind. She has fallen behind.
But an RTI team has looked at it, because kids are placed in RTI based upon some team. It just doesn't take as much formal level as it does with an IEP. Personally, I don't have a problem necessarily with with Stewart's Creek Middle. The problem you're going to run into from a SAT team, which is the team of teachers that meets, they don't know her, except for the one teacher that's been tutoring her, which I don't want to slow down the process if we need to go up another step. In that case, and maybe the lady that knows her knows enough. I don't know. It's tutored her.
Could I respond to that? Going from our 6th grade year to our 7th grade year, none of those teachers had spoken. So we don't have the confidence that going from her 7th grade year to her 8th grade year, that those teachers are going to speak as well to educate them on her situation. So I appreciate what you're saying.
They would speak to her performance in the class. That's what they speak to, and then how can we address that?
Sure.
Let's go back to Mr. Shelton for just a minute. I went through this sort of thing as an assistant principal, and most of the time in these meetings, the assistant principal is the one that's there, not the principal. Very seldom I don't ever remember my principal going to an IEP meeting. He designated an assistant principal to do that, and I don't blame him.
We'd have had no problem with that.
Yeah, but also just to be perfectly fair and honest and open and upfront about this, many times when I went into those meetings, first of all, I didn't know the child at all, and secondly, I was really depending on the teachers and particularly the guidance counselor and obviously paperwork. And I was a witness, not much more than an educational person, but just a witness.
I can appreciate that.
So I don't think that the fact that Mr. Shelton was there or not really matters in this particular case, but maybe it does to you, and I understand. Are there other questions from?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Moore.
if I may. And this one is for Mr. Evans. If I understand correctly from our chart, as far as middle schools go, we're in an overcrowded situation at Blackman, but we are not at Stewart's Creek. Is that correct?
You're overcrowded at both of those.
Both places.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I see now. It went over into another column. Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Make a motion, if I may, if there's no more discussion.
Board? Further discussion from anybody, or a comment or question for these fine people? You want to say anything else?
I guess I'm gonna make one quick comment.
Yes, sir.
And I guess what sort of somewhat disturbed me on this thing is they've spoken that they've reached out for the last year on their daughter's behalf, and it doesn't seem like they've gotten anywhere. So I don't know if something's fell through or what the case is, but That's what I've sat here and understood, so.
Mr. Hodge, I do have a question on that. Now, Mr. Shelton did sign the application. How did you guys obtain his signature for the application that you turned in for the zone exemption?
I turned it into the office. I dropped it off at the office and then called me.
But before Ms. Moore makes her motion, and I have no idea what it'll be, but maybe I'll say that when I vote. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to overturn the decision of the Director of Schools on this and grant them their request for their daughter to go to Stewart's Creek.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. I need a second from someone. Second. Mr. Estes? A second from Mr. Estes. Any comment from anyone? I said I would say something. I'm going to vote to overturn this as well. I'm not just absolutely comfortable with it, but I'm going to do that. But I tell you, it's really something Mr. Hodge just said. If we're going to reevaluate and do paperwork and have this youngster looked at more closely and try to help her, we might as well do that at Stewart's Creek. And as opposed to Blackman, where I think these people have given it their best shot there, and for whatever reason, it hadn't worked. And that's my feeling, and we're going to have the roll call here and the motion. Mr. Blair?
If it's not out of turn, did they ever reach out to you since they didn't get to talk to Mr. Shelton? Did they reach out to you, Mr. Odom?
I don't think we have this request from this.
Good.
And our RTI team is met based upon what I see. RTI teams do not always, it's not at the same level as your special education. It may not involve parents and all, but it would be teachers of the child. So it's not something where you sign and do. It's really two different levels. And to credit for your daughter, it didn't seem that they are seeing the discrepancy huge enough that we would want to say special ed label right at this particular point. And maybe we can avoid that, you know. But each child is independent and each child is different. And whether it's a dysgraphia, if it's a 504, but we have a combination all the time where you read tests to students. It's even allowed some on the state test, but typically then it's going to require, it would be an IEP. It said this is the only way they can take the test. So, I mean, you just have to look at this child individually and where they are. And, is there more testing since, I see, early 2016, so we are, 16, 18 months from that. Maybe it's more severe now than it was at that time. I don't know. The numbers could even be different. You just got to look at it again.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think it is necessary for me to make these comments, but I'm going to just so that they're on the record. I want to compliment the family because of their attention to not convicting Blackman Middle. And one of the things that you've said that is compelling to me is we don't feel like Blackman Middle is a failing school. This board would certainly take exception to that. And you have firsthand knowledge of that with the experience of your son. In addition to that, your reporting is accurate. You have done testing that should give us evidence of the things that you see in your daughter's performance. You have indicated that you see a disability, and yet does she have a 504? No, she does not. And so your reporting is accurate there. Through no fault of yours, and personally I would say through no fault of Blackman Middle School, you have struggled to work toward a positive conclusion. And what is compelling to me is that the place that you have found some success and some progress is with a Rutherford County teacher, which is affirming for me. It happens to be a Rutherford County teacher that is over at Stewart's Creek Middle School. My compliments to Lisa Darnell for her interest and her compassion for the situation. Sometimes you just have to fight in every possible direction to be able to find that. And you have happened to have found it in this way, and you've made a compelling argument that will lead my vote as well.
We have a motion to overturn the decision of the director, and it has been properly seconded. If there are no further comments, call the roll, please.
This is a struggle for me because I don't normally vote for exemptions. I really would prefer that give Blackman Middle an opportunity to get this corrected, but it looks like this is your last chance, so I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Estes?
Yes.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mr. Holloway?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
You will all receive a letter from me, and that letter will be
Thank you.
Ms.
very
Johnston, thank you. Mr. Evans, you have some more.
I thought we'd check back with Ms. Smith, if that's okay, to see what she found out from the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, okay, absolutely. Tell me they pick up. They do at John
Yes, sir.
Coleman?
Yes.
Okay, so do we need any further action from this board on
The
that?
board has taken action on the hearing. I think Mr. Odom and I can work out the rest of it. We'll get back to you tomorrow.
That's fine, thank
It's the
you.
person you need to meet down there. If you don't know Ann Haley, the principal, you need to meet her.
Okay, thank
You
you.
will inspire
Yes, sir.
you. We're scared not to do what she wants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to give the board a report every year, just a summary of where we are, and allow you all to ask questions of the zoning exemption process. I do review each of them personally, so I know a lot of the information, but there's a lot of them, so I'm just giving you some summary data. But as of today, we have completed 957 zoning exemption applications for next school year. That's an increase of about 15% from the same day last year. Of those processed for next school year, approximately 200 have been denied, and the remaining have been approved. But of the ones that are approved, most of them fall into a few specific categories. Employees, 287 have been approved. You know, employees can take their children to where they work or to the zone where they work. That's board policy. 92 of those were grandfathered related to the Rocky Fork Middle School rezoning. So you're already up to nearly 400 there. And then upperclassmen, we try to let seniors and fifth graders, eighth graders stay where they are. If the parents have moved, for example, and we want them to be able to finish out that last school year, because it doesn't usually make sense for the child to move just for 1 year and then change schools again. So we try to let them stay if the parents can provide transportation. The IB program, there were 38. Contracts on new homes, that's if you have a contract on another home, you're moving in the middle of the school year, we go ahead and let you start at the beginning of the year so the child doesn't move in the middle of the year. There were 15 of those. And then of the approvals, 13 of them were actually reversals. That's people who have canceled a previous zone exemption and want to go back to their zone school. And then the remaining that we would have approved would be things like, occasionally there's a medical hardship, that's pretty rare, but it's people who are usually looking for a school that has available space, and it helps us to let them go to that school. So for example, to go to Whitworth Buchanan Middle School instead of Oakland Middle School, we obviously would welcome that because we need some relief at Oakland Middle School. So in those situations, we, as Ms. Moore and I were saying a minute ago, we do list the schools that are overcrowded on the form so that parents kind of know up front, these are the schools that probably can't take any exemptions because they're overcrowded. So a lot of times parents will try to find another one before even applying that will fit their needs.
Seniors, 5th and 8th, the upperclassmen, what was the number again?
This year it was 60. That includes a few juniors as well.
Thank you so much.
Any other comments? Mr. Evans, I want to compliment you. I just can't imagine the job that you do. I'm glad you're doing it and not me.
We are
That's tough.
We're exploring some ways to make the process easier for parents, but maybe do it electronically in the future. But Mr. Odemeyer are working through that now to see how that can work, because it'll help parents get a faster answer and make it easier on everybody. But we've got to figure out the logistics of that first.
You can do it online, but there's a cost typically. That's what he's talking about. We did, you have a copy of the the agenda for tomorrow night work session, since we moved the date. Go ahead and give you a printed copy. The possibility that we're still adding each day, especially in some situations where if it comes in for non-faculty volunteer coaches or something, I mean, there could still be another couple or so, and I'll let you know tomorrow night what changes we had to add or something like that if we do. You don't vote until Thursday, but this gives you a chance to go ahead and look at it. And this version is online. Should have been by this afternoon.
Anything else from anyone? Thank you, staff. Ms. McLeod, appreciate your efforts tonight as always. If there's nothing else, tomorrow, 5 o'clock now, not 5:30, 5 o'clock tomorrow night, the work session. Thank you so much, board. We are adjourned.